Hello, everyone. This is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSound Astrology, latest edition. So, before we get started with the week ahead, I just wanted to share a few things. Number one is I'm very excited because actually this is I'll show you a little bit of astrology in action. I am back on YouTube. And if you are seeing this on a YouTube page, uh, you see that my last video was like over 2 years ago. So I'm back, and I didn't expect to be back, but here we are. I've been on 10 podcast platforms, mostly iTunes and Spotify, for the last 2+ years, 73 episodes. And I'm still there. If you're listening on those platforms, we're still here. But we did get messages from 3 people, actually. So we want to give a little shout out to 3 people for putting us back here. Number one, Vanessa Montgomery, my Sag sister astrologer. She's the one I interviewed on last week on our fabulous Vanessa with her books, Cosmic Power and Star Power. Anyway, the whole Scorpio, the new moon in Scorpio. And she had mentioned kind of inadvertently about going on YouTube, and it was this message, and I'm like, oh, wow. And I realized, and I wrote her and I said, are you talking about me putting my things on YouTube? And she said, no, actually, it was something that she was saying to her, I don't know, for herself or whatever. But all I know is that it landed on me like, oh, okay, hello, the universe saying, get back on YouTube. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then I had a wonderful chat with the amazing Kat at The Creative Introvert, who, by the way, is a phenomenal astrologer and graphic designer out of the UK. And I had the great opportunity to just chat with her this week. And she had mentioned it to me. I was asking her about marketing, figured, ask an astrologer who's also a marketing genius and creative graphic designer and such. So she mentioned it. And then the third and final one, they always say the third time's the charm. Well, I get this text this morning from one of my clients who is a brilliant, brilliant woman. And she's a judge. And I I happened, and don't mess with judges, right? These people know the law. And she said to me, something about you should be on YouTube. And I'm like, oh, and she said, she said, yeah, don't you remember I told you that? Well, I didn't remember, right? It was a while back, but anyway, so that was the third time. So here I am back on YouTube, and I'm excited to be here. My mother is happy because God rest her soul, she's watching me from heaven, and she's excited because I have my makeup on. And she was a Libra, so of course, we had to look presentable. Oh, you're not going in front of YouTube with that hairstyle, are you? No, but she always said it in a very nice way. So thank you, Mom. Anyway, so I just want to say shout out to that. The other thing I want to say before I move into the astrology for the week is I'm really excited because, oh, by the way, so that I'm pivoting back into YouTube, and I just thought it was interesting because these past 2 months, when Mars retrograde in Aries, it was all about stepping back and looking at our direction and where we want to go. So with the pivot into, this is like a new direction for me. I mean, I'm still moving forward, of course, but it's a new direction that I'm taking to step back and reassess and, nudge it with nudges from those 3 wonderful goddesses. So it's interesting how life can throw us a curveball like that. But anyway, I'm glad to be here and reaching more people, and hopefully with light and encouragement and humor and knowledge and empowerment for what lies ahead. So just wanted to share that. The other thing I wanted to share was that I'm really excited because this is a very, very big, this is more of a, what I'm about to share is more of a Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, which has, sent us through the ringer, right, this year. But I have decided and already began studying with Achyuta Bhabadas of Nightlight Astrology. And I've begun that last Saturday, and it's a one-year course called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. So I'm very excited to be studying with him. He's somebody that I've known when he was Adam Ellenbos, before he changed his name about a year ago. And so I have long followed him and long enjoyed his wisdom and his teachings and his knowledge and his mastery of astrology. But what I love about him is that he's not only a great astrologer, master astrologer, I would say, but he is a yogi. He's a bhakti yogi. And so he's a Krishna bhakti. So his whole life is just devotion to the divine. And the way in which he, moves that through the world is through astrology. So for me, that really resonated. This is not an easy class. I mean, what I'm saying easy is, of course, he's going to break it down for us, but it's an enormous commitment of time. It's a one-year program. And I'm very excited. We're meeting up with people from all over the world, and it's just about every Saturday. So, and a lot of reading and things. And it's a real pivot for me because I had always resisted. It's interesting because here's the astrology again. I had resisted Hellenistic astrology. My work has been, modern astrology, but I always I resisted it early on when I first came across it years ago. And I remember I came across a name that is completely, as many of you know who are into astrology, a name that's synonymous with Hellenistic astrology or ancient astrology is Chris Brennan. And so I came across his website and his book, and I remember looking at that and in the philosophy being that they only look in traditional astrology as the first 7 planets through Saturn, but they don't work with Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Now, it's not that he ignores them, but it's just that the Hellenistic tradition, it focused, because back then, of course, they didn't have microscopes, they didn't have telescopes, so they couldn't see those planets visibly, even though they were, at work, of course, in the world. So when I first read that, I was like, what? Like that scene in what's that movie, The Big Fat Greek Wedding, when the mother says, what do you mean he don't eat no meat? Like, and the whole party stopped. So when I read that, it was like, what? I can't have Uranus. Like Uranus is so huge in my chart. It's what has me be an astrologer, and it had me be a sound healer and energy medicine practitioner for so many years. So it's really, esoterically, it rules my chart. So when I saw that, I immediately had this reaction, and I was like, oh no, I can't do that. No. Oh hell no. I'm not giving up Uranus or the other outer planets. But this isn't for me, so that was it. Well, here we are, never say never. But it just kept calling to me. And I have to say, on Twitter, I'm on Twitter at StarSound Astro. And I have the great blessing to follow and very grateful for many ancient astrologers. And I just saw myself being drawn more and more to them. So Chris Brennan, I'm sorry, dropping out names, Patrick Watson, all going on and on and on, to really see and understand. And I was very, so I just even though I had that initial, this is not my lane, over the last, I'd say at least year or two, I just kept finding myself reading and following things they had to say, and it was really drawn. So here we are. And now in the course, and I feel it will make me a better astrologer. I mean, of course, right? How could it not? Having these amazing teachers and having all of you amazing ancient astrologers out on Twitter. Sorry, I feel like I'm up at the Oscar podium going, okay, I'm forgetting to thank people. But I just wanted to say that I'm really excited. And I know that it will open and broaden my horizons. And that's certainly something that was calling to me in this Jupiter-Saturn Pluto conjunction, was having major fundamental shifts in my career and my reality base, And so here we are. So I just wanted to share that I'm very looking forward to learning these things, and it will involve a lot of unlearning. So the unlearning being, just modern astrology, nothing wrong with it. It's, whole, complete. I've assisted so many people and helping them and assisting them in transforming their lives and giving them empowerment. But this is just coming from a different place. And it does involve just being that beginner again, and just coming from like, I don't have all the, just come from, I don't know. And so that's certainly good advice in this, in our nodal transits of Gemini and Sag for the next year plus few months. We'll have our eclipses in, and we started our eclipses in Gemini and Sag. So the evolution of that for the collective is to say, I don't have all the answers, or just give up that you think that whole, like me having been a New Yorker most of my life. I know, right? That's our mantra, right? It's like a mantra in India would be, Om Namah Shiva. Well, in New York City, it's I know. So if you live in New York and you know New Yorkers, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm giving that up. I gave it up. I already gave it up. So I'm coming from there. And so anyway, just wanted to share that. Very exciting. Oh, all right. So moving on. Yeah, there's three things I want to talk about this week. Here we are heading into Thanksgiving in the United States, a day of remembrance of thanks. Historically, it has been about, pilgrims and Indians and, thank you for helping us get through, that was our narrative that we all had growing up, getting through a rough winter and the pilgrims offering thanks. Well, of course, in the years past, we simply know this to definitely be a very not really the truth, and the real truth about Thanksgiving. And if you ask any indigenous person, just like Columbus Day, they consider Columbus Day a day of mourning, and so the Thanksgiving package has been really rewritten in our Pluto in Capricorn, and also in this year, especially when we see this, the dismantling of systemic racism and the dismantling of assault and genocide of indigenous peoples. So part and parcel of that is this looking at Thanksgiving in a new view. So it's really about being in just full gratitude, for what we have and for what we don't have. So a lot of people this year have lost their job with COVID. A lot of people have, more than 250,000 Americans have died of COVID. So it's definitely a sobering reality, but and yet we come together on Thursday to celebrate this gratitude for whatever lessons that the universe has provided us with, and for all the things we do have, like we have each other. Even though I'm talking to you through a satellite transmission, but we're all one community and we have each other. So Thanksgiving is definitely, and it can be celebrated in that fashion of we're honoring not a colonialist narrative, but honoring Black and Indigenous people of color, BIPOC, as well as, just all of us together. So there's three things I want to share this week about as we move forward. And one of them is that tomorrow, Venus is going to move into the sign of Scorpio for about a month or so. It travels through a sign. And so Venus in Scorpio. So we're going from Venus in its lovely, cushy place of Libra, which brought us all this peace and justice and harmony, and a turnaround of where grace, and light coming forth and prevailing, and now it is moving into the sign of Scorpio. So that's being ruled by Pluto, and in ancient astrology it would be Mars, ruled by Mars. So that can bring a lot of intense issues about how we relate and the nature of our relating to, and of our relationships and our love affairs and our connections with women and our friendships and our just connections in general, and our value systems. It can bring a lot of very maybe buried, deeply buried subconscious fears or survival issues to the surface around relationships and relating. And so that can be very intense, and it can be, cathartic and emotional, and but very transformative. So if we move beyond the fear and kind of go down into that well, like a shaman, going down into the well and dismantling these any subconscious fear patterns, we can emerge victorious and whole and complete and sustaining and giving, rather than emotional vampire taking. So that's where we get to examine this in when Venus enters Scorpio. And so it's just, here it is, we're heading into Thanksgiving, right? So coming to grips with all that during the first holiday week of the for us here. And of course that's not an easy time, with where Thanksgiving is, in a way, it's kind of been canceled. The way we've known it, the way we've bonded, in the past with family dinners and connecting in person. Well, here we have the very, the intense, in your face, realities of how that we, have to be so careful with COVID about not meeting up and not being in person, and more just managing that extremely carefully, almost obsessively in a Scorpio manner, right? Being really, really, really careful. But anyway, so Venus and Scorpio, moving there, and so the nature of our relationships, being tested on those deep, deep levels, and relating, maybe secrets that we haven't admitted to ourselves, or secrets that get discovered, maybe things that we stuffed, stuffed under the rug. These are opportunities for healing and renewal and reprogramming how we relate to each other. So the next thing I want to mention is that the sun will go in. Now we're finishing Scorpio season. The sun is leaving Scorpio as Venus is entering. As the sun's going, okay, see ya. It's moved into Sagittarius. So 21st, 22nd, it will be in the sign of Sagittarius, and that is, Jupiter. Jupiter will be ruling the sun. Well, this is a big deal because it's, well, first of all, we're now in eclipse season, and we have our eclipses in Gemini and Sag. So the sun is shining its light, and it's ready to do its thing with the eclipse season. And the sun, with Jupiter ruling ruling the sun for this particular for Sag season, we look at Jupiter, and where is Jupiter? Well, Jupiter right now is still in the sign of Capricorn, and it's in 3 weeks from now, it's going to shift into that outrageous next month. So please hang in there. I know it's been rough on everybody, but next month is going to be an enormous shift. One of them being that we have, eclipses, and we have the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. But the nice thing is that the Jupiter for the last year has been in its detriment in the sign of Capricorn, which means it doesn't do well in that sign. It's like a person with a beautiful, gorgeously arrayed, outfit and jewels and such is walking through a desert. It's just this very spare place to be. Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn. The expansion that we've had has not come from the external. It had to come from internal and focus. And as we said, when it first went in a year ago, don't pray for something you're not willing to work for. That was definitely a Jupiter and Capricorn kind of mindset. But now it's about to leave that sign. So we'll talk more about that in future episodes. But just to say that it's really exciting to see that that's finally this year, the end, the light at the end of the tunnel is showing up, and so we'll have that going on. So the sun in Sag, so Jupiter is going to be ruling the sun, and Sagittarius is all about optimism and confidence and connecting to the world at large. And so the sun in Sag is again eclipse season, and so we're going to be looking at those themes, the light, you know, cosmic light is shining through the filter of Sagittarius. So the desire to know and to, you know, knowledge and higher wisdom, you know, it's all just very fruitful and abundant. So anyway, so there's that. And then around November 27th, Venus, I'd like to talk to you about Venus now. Venus is going to be opposing Uranus in Scorpio. So Venus is in Scorpio, and it's going to catch up to and oppose Uranus, which has been in the sign of Taurus for the last 2.5 years. So when that occurs, you know, it's interesting. It's just around Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving when it's exact. So, you know, and you think about Uranus is the great liberator, and it can be, it can provide unity and intimacy for like world brotherhood. And it can also bring about, shake loose things that we've been very bound by, and maybe obsessively obsessed with, you know, with Venus and Scorpio. We might be a little over obsessive about love affairs. Maybe some love affair or connection that was toxic, right? Low level of Scorpio, that would need to be cleansed and purified. So Uranus coming along there shakes up the things and liberates us from where we have been stuck. And, you know, Scorpio is fixed water. So maybe where we've been stuck with our emotions and how we relate to others. And so it's going to give us this, you know, a jolt, for better or worse. You know, the universe is very neutral on these things. But for certainly, I say better or worse, but Uranus, even though it can be, it will take us out of our comfort zone. And let's face it, Venus and Scorpio is like craving comfort, you know, and control. So Uranus will come along and it's like a big hammer. Wham, you know, break this up, break that party up. So that's exciting and it can bring some exciting news too. It could be a change of values or a change in how we see things, and sudden and shocking. One thing that does come to mind as well is the fact that because so many of us are not going to travel for Thanksgiving and connect with families and friends in the way we normally have, a lot of it would be done over the internet. So Uranus, you know, rules the internet. And yeah, so it's, you know, making those intense, intimate connections via the satellite and just appreciating and connecting in that way due to the COVID virus. So, you know, it can either throw us off and upset us, or we can use that upset to really examine ourselves and deep motives in how we relate and why and all of that. So just wanted to mention that. And maybe one question that we could ask ourselves is, you know, how do we create intimacy given those circumstances, given our physical, the separation, you know, the Uranus, that separation of in society, you know, how do we create that intimate? How do we connect intimately over the internet? I mean, there's certainly, I'm sure millions of people are going to do this, you know, sit down with your Thanksgiving dinner and turn on Zoom and just have your dinner over Zoom. So it's something that we've probably already been doing, but, you know, nothing wrong with that. We're going to be safe when we do that. It will certainly, it's not the same, but that's a creative challenge, right? How can we make this fun and engaging and unforgettable? I'm sure we can all, you know, put our genius talents, our Venus, you know, dig deep and find some passionate way in which we can connect online with our food, right? Venus, right? Our food and our lovely, beautiful things. So yeah. Now next November 30th, we're going to have our lunar eclipse. We're already in eclipse season. So just to say I'll definitely be covering that probably next week. But we are in the shadow of eclipse seasons. I usually give it 2 weeks out before the eclipse. So middle of November, here we are. The first eclipse is November 30th with a lunar eclipse at 8 degrees of Gemini. And then we have 2 weeks later, we have the new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius, 23 degrees of Sagittarius. So these themes are, eclipses are about endings. And a full moon lunar eclipse would be about things coming to fruition and finally getting resolution. And then, you know, it's a whole new change, closing the door in the past. You know, lunar rules, the moon rules are, you know, are about the past and about things that we habitually do. And it's about our home life and our family and our mother and, you know, comfort zone and relating like that. So the eclipse in Gemini will definitely give us opportunities to close the door on, and the universe will be showing us, you know, depending on where it occurs in your chart, where this transformation is ready to happen, where it's okay to close the door in the past and move forward. And then December 14th, we have the solar eclipse in Sag. And that's very exciting because that middle week of December, man, I'll tell you, you know, as much as 2020 was hell, yes, and thank goodness, you know, this is the light at the end of the tunnel. So we're feeling this enormous shift. Jupiter and Saturn will be lining up at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And we're having the eclipse, and then we have our solstice. You know, December 21st is, depending on what time, hemisphere, winter solstice in the north, summer solstice in the southern hemisphere. But a huge, huge shift in cosmic consciousness. So very much, of course, looking forward to that. And the opportunity to create new paths and visions for an outrageous and society that's where we're here for each other. You know, we had to go through the seeing, and not in a very comfortable way, all the toxicity and corruption and systemic toxicity, you know, with Black Lives Matter, with systemic racism, with just society in general, with politics and corruption, you know, which is all politics and government being, you know, Capricorn ruled, all of that coming up for examination so it can be reprogrammed. And now that we have done that work, that shadow work, and it was very intense last week, you know, Jupiter-Pluto exact conjunction. It's like the mother of all volcanic, the third and final act of the volcanic eruption took place. And now the smoke is beginning to clear. So if you've had a tough week, I understand. You know, I remember I have heard from some people that have definitely been through the ringer in terms of having to witness and listen to other people, whether it was in person or through a text message or an email, enormous amounts of volatility, like emotional purging of like hatred and judgment and just intense stuff, very difficult to stomach. But I'm thinking of 2 people I have in mind now that, but I have to say they both did very, very well with it, and they are able to see it, be with it, and maybe it was uncomfortable in the gut to feel and experience that kind of communication. But here's the thing, witnessing it, witnessing and allowing it, not agreeing, but just simply observing and witnessing, the witness consciousness. The witness consciousness that Eckhart Tolle talks about. It's so powerful. And that's the keys to the kingdom. That's our key out of suffering, is to just witness and observe, but don't participate. So it's not been an easy year to do that. This was the year that we were probably tested more than anything else. But we're in the final stages of this, you know, the birth canal with that baby's head coming, it's crowning, right? So just hang in there a little longer if you feel like you're still at the end of your rope and you can't take another minute. You know, I get it. We totally get it. But I will tell you that the astrology for next month is a shift. We were already starting to feel it. We already saw it with the USA elections, people standing up and calling for the reflection that Trump has been for us. You know, has been a very, very sobering lesson. But I feel like, with the election going where almost 80 million people voting for Biden, you can see that people were ready for change. It's like we collectively were saying, look, maybe many of us were still voting with Trump, but so many were not. And so we are just approaching things in a shifting and moving forward. And, and again, if anything, the eclipses of Cancer and Capricorn, if there's anything that has taught us from the past 2.5 years of those eclipses in those signs, was about restructuring with compassion. It's not about domination. It's about passion and compassion and caring and nurturing. And now that we've had that reflected to us, now we can move on and with this eclipses in Gemini and Sag, where we're going to be dissolving those structures and very much, taking the best, all of our lessons and moving everything forward into more of relating and lightheartedness and desiring connections with others. So, and truth and justice in the process and doing what is right. And, so we do feel that already coming on. So yay, I think that's all I really want to say this week. As ever, I always appreciate hearing from you. It's phenomenal, and it's a blessing and an honor to assist all of you in whatever we have to say. And I hope that you find this information useful. Love hearing from you. So any ideas, whatever, you can always just email me at irlianna@starsoundastrology.com, starsoundastrology.com. And yeah, thank you all for listening. And I hope you have a very blessed week. And may we all in our hearts, hold in our hearts the gratitude we have for each other, for where we live and the food on our plate. No matter whatever country in the world we are, we can all celebrate and give thanks and have gratitude in our heart. That's universal. So with that, I bid you adieu for now. Salut, namaste. And this is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSound Astrology. Thank you all for listening. Bye for now.